of you, and every now and then we get stories about your journeys and accomplishments, and please keep those coming in. It's always a delight and a treasure to read about your success and your accomplishments. We also have 40 partnerships with business schools around the world. We try and keep connected to other schools of business education that have good reputations, and we receive students from those schools as well as send our own students to those schools during the course of their studies to enrich their learning. Pepperdine as an institution is one of the few that truly has a global asset footprint. We have actual Pepperdine-owned campuses. For those of you who don't know, we have them in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, Florence, Heidelberg, Lausanne, Switzerland, London, and Shanghai, and Washington. So when students go and study, they're studying in a Pepperdine facility at those locations. And then recently, very exciting news, we as an institution have acquired a chateau in Switzerland, in a little town called Vevey, which is near Lake Geneva. Is literally 5 or 6 minutes away from Nestle's global headquarters, and just down the road from IMD, another business school that we hope to develop some collaborative partnerships with. So it's a great strategic location that allows us to expand our degree and certificate program offerings in Europe, and create some valuable partnerships and synergies there. So more to come on that. We hope to be able to send students there in the next 2 years as they ready that chateau for student occupation. Our rankings continue to improve as an institution. Of course, Pepperdine overall is a top 50 university. The law school is also in the top 50 space, and we're making progress towards that goal. I can't quite release the information because it's embargoed, except to say that recently with US News and World Report, the rankings for our MBA, our online MBA, will be coming out shortly, and you will notice a dramatic improvement in rankings there. We also have a 63 ranking for Best Business School with Bloomberg, and we're ranked by Princeton Review as the number 9 program for most competitive students and the number 11 program for online MBA students and programs. Our Give to Pep Day is coming up shortly, which I hope you can participate in as alum on March the 9th and 10th. It's a university-wide giving day, and each year, each of the schools compete with each other, challenged to see who has the highest percentage of their alums participating. And the dean from the winning school receives a sash. I'm proud to say that at the moment we have that sash, we have that title. We won it in 2019. And then last year, the event was canceled given the advent of COVID. But so we've kind of held it for 2 years now, and hopefully we can hold on to it for another year. Alumni giving rates enhances Graziadio's academic reputation and directly impacts rankings. So it's really important, and I'd really encourage you, if you can, to participate. Our teaching and our program continues to remain, as I said earlier, global in orientation, ethical in focus, and we welcome you to participate as alums. Connect back with your faculty members. We'd love you to come and speak in the classes. Students love to hear stories from successful prior students. Make yourself available. Help our students also with internships and jobs if you can. It's a really important part of not only the rankings, and the reason that students actually join a school is they feel that they can tap into a vast and powerful alumni base, which we certainly have. I'd now like to turn over to introduce Dr. John Mooney, who will take us through the next stages of this program today. Dr. Mooney is a professor of information systems and technology management, and he is the academic director of our executive doctor in business administration program, which is a new program. We've now, I think, in our 3rd year, a really prestigious new offering. We have our doctoral program in business now at the Graziadio Business School. Dr. Mooney has studied at institutions such as University College Dublin, as well as UC Irvine, where he received his PhD. He's been a visiting scholar at MIT and has held numerous leadership roles at the school and served the school in many, many different capacities, including Associate Dean of Academic Programs. And also he helped to co-found an Associate Dean's Affinity Group with the AACSB, which is our accreditation agency. John is married to Dr. Angela Tripoli, who coaches executives and professionals throughout their career. And his daughter is pursuing a computer science major at a small local college here in the Los Angeles area called UCLA. John, I will hand over to you. Thank you for helping us with today's agenda.
Thank you very much, Derek. Let me add my words of welcome to everyone. Thanks for taking a little time out of your busy schedules to join yet another Zoom meeting. So we appreciate you joining us here. And to our alumni, welcome back. And to our current students, great to see you in a different forum. Before we introduce our guest of honor today, I want to invite an additional guest, a surprise guest today, a former, now retired faculty colleague and friend, Emeritus Professor of Marketing, Dr. David Ralph, who served on the faculty at Pepperdine for 50 years. And during that time, he also served in a number of administrative roles, as well, of course, as being a professor of marketing. And among the thousands of students that Dr. Ralph taught over his 50 years at Pepperdine is indeed our guest of honor, Tom Magnuson, today. Dr. Ralph is currently involved in a number of ongoing business ventures as a board of directors member, and was also a founder and chief executive of Antelope Valley Christian School during his time, so a wide variety. But David, if I can pass over to you, please, and invite you to introduce our guest.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you today, and even more importantly, great to introduce what I consider a genius in marketing, an all-around great strategic person who, from very early on, thought in a totality of how to put a business together. I can go back, a long time ago, when I remember he was able to convince government officials to allow him to connect literally mining roads to old silver mines, making them connect with each other and creating the largest snowmobile streets, ramps that you could go on in the world. But the key thing is not that he was not only able to think outside the box to do that, but once again, he used his skill in putting together hotels and putting together airlines, and even more importantly, convincing magazines to print stories about this new activity that he had built, building an incredible, successful business. And of course, as you probably all can tell by reading his bio, he continued in that activity, both with working with Beth Western and then moving on to the Magnuson Hotel empire, where in fact he has been able to do the same thing, only in a bigger picture, by adding a platform that now represents 65,000 hotels, 700 airlines, providing a better, inexpensive service to these entities, allowing them to, again, to provide lower cost fares for their customers. Bottom line, he provides unique customer service experiences to whatever he touches, and you can even see it if you follow his webpage, that they're even expanding in 2021, being one of the top 20 global hotel chains in the world, connecting the US and Europe and Asia. Bottom line, through that booking service, it has become renowned in what they've been able to produce. Our speaker is, oh goodness, an expert strategist, a team player, a leader, an innovator. Bottom line, he's a relationship builder. And so it's, oh goodness, it is my honor and a proud privilege to introduce to you Thomas Magnuson.
Terrific. Thank you, David, very much for that introduction. And again, great to have you join with us today. And Tom, let me add my words of welcome, and especially welcome back to you to the Graziadio School in our community.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ralph. What a great surprise. You've touched my heart. As Pepperdine has always touched my heart. And my wife, Melissa, and I were talking this afternoon about this day, and this is a very big moment for me. I don't take it lightly to be honored and asked to contribute to my former university, which has changed my life. So it's just a privilege to be here today, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, it's our great pleasure, Tom, to have you. Let's start with your current role as Chief Executive of Magnuson Hotels, which, as you mentioned, you co-founded with your wife, Melissa, who's also here with us among one of the many windows. Melissa, great to have you join us also. So can you share with us, for those who may not be familiar, about sort of what is Magnuson Hotels, your positioning in the marketplace, and your business model? What does it do?
Well, Melissa and I started Magnuson Hotels out of our house about 18 years ago this February. As a small startup home business. And at that time, we had spent several years running Best Western hotels, other hotels. And we also experienced what life was like to be a small business owner who franchises with a large global corporation. We saw a disconnect between what the franchisors were providing in terms of support and revenue delivery to small businesses. There was a disconnect between the value and what was paid. So we thought of a better way, which was to build an affordable way for small business owners who were not franchised to tap into the same global reservation networks that Hilton, Best Western, Marriott did. So as we built the software program, and we developed it, we launched it, we rolled it out one by one, and we started with 12 friends and families and moms and pops and seaside inns and little places in Montana and Idaho, and it just caught on fire. We always had a saying, Melissa and I did, all we got to do is do what we say we're going to do. People say, I need help. We'll say we'll be there for you, and we'll try to do it the best we can at the lowest cost we can. So we've done that over and over again, and that's taken us to where we are today, John.
Super. That's great, John. So just to drill down on that a little bit, for one of these small hotel owners, what's different about affiliating themselves with Magnuson Hotels, say, versus joining one of the other perhaps better known global brands or franchises?
Well, let's say you're the Mooney's Seaside Inn in Carmel, and you're a family-owned company that you've had for 50 years, and you've always been there on the waterfront and then over the years, the big chains come in, and there's a Marriott on one side and a Hilton on the other, and on and on and on. Well, all of a sudden, your once great marketplace has gotten diluted and taken over by not one, but several 800-pound gorillas. So what we were able to do was to really in the early days of online distribution or online marketing, we built it in 2002 in the wake of 9/11, was to take the Mooney site in, and in the online marketplace, front page of Expedia, front page of Booking.com, give you the same visibility and the same online credibility as one of the major brands. If you had a 4 out of 5 rating and the Marriott had a 4 out of 5 rating, you were both on the water. They were $300. We got you into the game. But the difference is we were there to support the small business owner, to enhance and amplify their vision, and not constrict and constrain their identity or their vision and marginalize that to a standardized a corporate dictum. What that means is not only did the hotel have the ability to be themselves and stand out, as I've learned so long ago from Dr. Ralph, to be highly differentiated in a brand-driven marketplace, but the hotel would be able to do that at a much lower cost, because franchisors typically levy about a 15% royalty rate on gross revenues. So if you and your family had this hotel and you built the market already for 50 years, well, they're just going to come and take 15% off the top. Then they might charge you anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per room renovation. Before you know it, you're so upside down, you can't come out of what that value that was promised to you. So we help you be yourself at without a lot of the constraints and the costs of some of the standardized chains, John.
While also providing that global access and a sophisticated suite of functionality around reservations, etc., that the big players have.
Thank you.
Great. Super. So this is what you're doing today. And we know that this venture, you just mentioned, you started putting the plan together in 2002. We have an entrepreneurship program, of course, at the Graziadio School that's led by Dr. Larry Cox, is our sort of senior professor in entrepreneurship. And one of the initiatives that he's had going for a number of years is a series called The Entrepreneur's Journey. And it's very much based around the notion that behind every great entrepreneur, there's a journey. And so I'd like to go back, if you wouldn't mind, Tom, and let's talk about your journey before founding with Melissa the Magnuson Hotels in 2002. So if we went back before the time that led up to, let's be before joining and coming to the Pepperdine Graziadio School. Share a little bit of your journey up to the decision to do an MBA.
I started working as a drummer when I was 15 in a little mining town up in Idaho. My dad was a musician before he went into business, and it was in our family. So my full intent was to end up playing with Led Zeppelin or The Who someday. I was hell-bent on that, and I gave it everything I've got. I worked all the way through high school, all the way through university in Boston as a music student, as an English literature student. I moved to LA when I was about 21, because that was the place to be. And I worked very, very hard for many years. Met a lot of great people, had a lot of lucky breaks, had a lot of amazing experiences in the music business. But it's a hard business, and it can wear your soul down. It can be very difficult to sustain, especially the competitive environment. When I was about 28, I started thinking about a plan B. Well, maybe I better think about going to business school in case this doesn't work out. I looked at a few schools, talked to a few, but when I went to interview at Pepperdine, I just connected at the heart with Pepperdine. with the embracing, encouraging, you can do it attitude. And quite honestly, when you're 28 and your resume says that you've been a drummer for 13 years, a lot of the standard business schools don't think you're part of the mold. But Pepperdine said, that's interesting. We'll give you a shot. And so that was one of the greatest lucky breaks I've ever had, was to be accepted and to get into this program.
Terrific. Well, we were delighted that you had us on your search list, and delighted that you chose to come join us. I'm curious, as you think back on your experiences in the MBA program, what lessons, what memories, what experiences have stayed with you and perhaps served you well over the years?
I think a couple of the largest things, John, are the first day at Pepperdine. About, I don't know, several dozen of us, 80 or 90, were brought into a room, and this was about 1987 or 88. Dr. Donald Syme was the dean then. And he said, congratulations, you've all been accepted to a top 50 business school. You're all smart, you're all hardworking, but here's a piece of truth for you. You're all here because you intend on becoming the CEO, but the truth is only about 5% of you will. It's not because you're not smart enough, not because you don't work hard enough. It's about communication. Do you have the ability to communicate your ideas and your strategy to your superiors, to your subordinates, to your colleagues, to your customers, to your business prospects, to the banks, to the press, to the public? Can you mobilize effectively? And he said, from now on, starting in 2 days, we're going to have mock presentations. And we had mock presentations to overcome the fear of public speaking for 2 years straight. And we did boardroom presentations, both sides, financial presentations, analyst presentations, press presentations, just about everything but an SEC investigation. That was one of the most useful things, John. Second day was impactful, was the last day. I had a professor, I think his name was Chuck Williams, and he was a pretty hard-boiled guy that was about all business as you could get. And he said, well, congratulations, today is your last night. You're all gonna go out there, and he said, some of you are gonna win, some of you are gonna lose, some of you will just get jobs and plod along, some of you will get stuck, some of you will take off like a rocket, and some of you are enamored with this new vogue idea back in '89 of entrepreneurship, of being an entrepreneur. And he said, let me tell you what being an entrepreneur is going to be like. You'll never eat, you'll never sleep, you'll never be able to pay your bills. You'll probably end up paying your employees with one of your multiple credit cards. You're going to hawk your house, and this is the way you're going to run like a squirrel cage on fire for about the rest of your life. You may never ever get to a place where you think you're there, because you're going to be consumed by all the forces. Well, that was pretty freaky for all of us. And I remember we all went out for a beer that night after that, and that didn't go over well with people. I never would have dreamed that would become my life. You don't choose what happens. Sometimes it hits you, and that's what happens. So those are a couple of big events. But I think if I could wrap one more thing around Pepperdine, and that is to just take this opportunity to tell the world right now what a mentor and an inspiration Dr. David Ralph has been for me. And because he took a chance on me at the very early stage and inspired me, truly inspired me, and we have stayed connected for years. He came to our wedding up in Idaho, and he really inspired me for the love of marketing. And as Regis McKenna says, that marketing is everything. It's not just a division. So I think hopefully that can sum up a few of the earliest lessons that I learned that have carried with me, John.
Thank you, Tom. When we've been chatting the lead up to this event, there's another metaphor you use that I really liked, and I just like to give you an opportunity to comment on it. You use the Swiss Army knife metaphor. Could you share that with the group?
You asked me last night what advice I might have for students graduating today's world. And I can't imagine a tougher time to graduate than today's world. But I thought about this, and the advice that I would give would be the advice that Melissa and I gave our kids. And that is to learn every aspect of business so that you're completely well-rounded and you're just like a one-person SWAT team or a human Swiss Army knife. Because what's going to happen, I think, in this world is when everything's gotten upended, when the commercial real estate sector's gone completely upside down, every sector's gone upside down. I think those that are well equipped to be a human Swiss Army knife or a one-person SWAT team can do everything, will survive and do very well. You know, Melissa and I know very, very well that there are thousands of nights that you sit at the kitchen table, and entrepreneurs have to know legal, they have to know financial, they have to know accounting, they have to know HR, they have to know IT, they have to know negotiation. And Pepperdine is genuinely that place that I came out of, absolutely equipped. And I've been able to deal with just about every situation with the facility that I've had. So that is the analogy that I used last night, that I believe that there is so much promise and so much opportunity for students right now by being a self-subsistent unit, and certainly leveraging the digital world, which you're a global expert on. There's never been a greater set of tools available that are free. There's so many free bolt-ons and softwares that any person can take their bedroom or their garage and build what represents a global company with a global storefront.
Terrific. Wonderful. And we'll come back to that in a while. I just want to encourage our attendees, please use the chat if you have questions. Some of the staff are going to be monitoring those questions, and you will have time to take some of those questions. So as issues come up, feel free to add a question to the chat or a comment. And then in a few minutes, we'll come to some of those. So Tom, well, let's go back to the journey. So the drummer from 15 through to 1988 joined the MBA program and acquired the skills and had those experiences that you mentioned. And so we're up to 1989, but we know Magnuson Hotels doesn't start until 2002. So tell us about the journey in between those two periods. What happened after graduation? Sounds like you weren't motivated to be an entrepreneur.
I didn't realize it, but I was, because I was a freelance musician for years. So I guess I was. I didn't know it. Company of one. A few weeks before a few months actually before I graduated. I was living in LA, obviously, and my father, of Italian descent, came down from little old hometown of Wallace, Idaho, about 1,000 people to see me, and said he was getting older and tired, and would I come home and help him take care of some of the family businesses? And I thought, well, no, I don't think so, because I've got this big world out in front of me in LA, and just getting out of this school and got my guns loaded for the world here. And he said, well, just come and help me for a couple of years and help me wrap up so I can retire. It won't be forever. So of course I did. And you asked me yesterday about challenges and accomplishments at early time. And the biggest thing I found out after coming out of Pepperdine with this wonderful degree and this set of tools is that for every minute since still up to today, nothing is ever what you think it's going to be. You think you got a plan? No way. I went to from Los Angeles, which is multi-millions, to a town of about 800 people, where I grew up in, and left when I was just a kid. And it was an old silver mining town that had seen its better days, and we're not going to come back. One of the businesses that I helped with was to build a small hotel company. And my dad had built a new hotel as a symbol of faith and renewal for the town. But what that means in our family is you got your emotions mixed up with your pocketbook, which means he overbuilt it by almost 3x. There was no way that thing was going to cash flow out. And so my job was to, he asked me to put this thing on the map and sell it and see if he could market this town. So I immediately thought about all the great work that Dr. Ralph had helped me with, and Dr. Ralph had helped me with this because I'd been thinking about it. And I prepared this magnificent MBA level multi-channel marketing plan to launch this hotel in this quaint mountain town. When I presented it, I was promptly told, that's great, but we don't have any money left. We spent it all on construction. So that taught me over the next few years, John, one of the greatest lessons of marketing was that you need to differentiate your product or your service so greatly. Find out what your true identity is, not your image. Who are you? What do you really have? And then find out what niche out there truly appreciates that, so that you are very, very efficient in market segmentation, targeting, and your spending. For us, we were not Aspen. We were a rough old mining town. We noticed that, as what was pointed out earlier, we had 8,000 miles, 9,000 miles of old logging and mining roads. So over the course of the years, we put together a plan with several government agencies to build the world's largest snowmobile trail system. So we became the heart and the home for snowmobilers who didn't have any place to go, ATVs, dirt bikes, mountain bikes. We got the town up and running. Melissa and I did side by side through all these years. And that was those are kind of the early stages.
Super. So then let's get closer to your joint decision to create this new entity, Magnuson Hotels, with a view of the need, right, to better serve other small hotel owners. And clearly, being a small hotel owner, I guess, had an influence that really kind of gave you a clear insight into what it's like to be a hotel owner. Where else did this idea come from? I'm always curious about the Where do the ideas come from? And where does the courage come from to take that leap, especially in the context of Chuck Williams' advice about what your lifestyle was going to be like?
I don't know about courage. It's just whatever courage I've gotten, I think I've gotten from my wife, Melissa, by just working alongside. She's inspired me greatly. Ever since the first day, we've worked side by side on everything. We had worked through rebuilding this town of Wallace, Idaho with no money. Got on the front page of the New York Times, coverage all around the world, major corporate sponsors. But when we decided we were done with that, we needed to do a challenge of our own that was not laid down for us. We moved with our family to Spokane, Washington, a city nearby. It was actually a city and not a hamlet. And over the many years, Melissa had an amazingly successful background in advertising and marketing. She had her own agency and marketed and handled national clients like Coca-Cola, United States Air Force, Best Western. Her background was marketing and advertising. During these years working with the hotel business, I was a Best Western franchisee. So I had an opportunity to be named to the executive marketing board of Best Western International, which is the world's largest hotel corporation. I got to learn over about 3 or 4 years the back of the house and the mechanics of how a company with global scope and scale works. All of the areas certainly of marketing and selling, but most importantly, technology. And we talked about this yesterday, John, that this was a very fortuitous time for me to get into the engine room. And because this was about 96, 95, 96, 97, when the .com was just starting to come up, when browsers such as Netscape were just starting to come into the public being. So I learned the power of distribution, pricing on global scales and local scales, learned the back end. When Melissa and I moved to Spokane, we talked about the struggles that the agency business was going through, that here you had a business that no matter how many hours you worked, you were capped. There was a limit. You couldn't scale it. And we thought, what if you could create a marketing services type platform that could scale, where you could take a set of services that was a hybrid of standardized and customized. You call that mass customization in business school, right? And leverage that. And what if we could build a platform like that? At the same time, we thought, how do we scale? How do we make it big? And we really noticed, because we were still peripherally involved in the hotel industry, this disconnect I talked about earlier between what owners were getting and what they were not, and the struggle that they were having. And so we came up with this idea to build a digital platform that the big guys had. We built a version of it that gave the smallest hotel the same global distribution to every travel agency, every booking network. We connected the smallest hotel on a worldwide stage, put them right next to the biggest guys at a mere fraction of the cost. And that's the idea that we came up with. We started out of our house with 12 friends and family. And as I mentioned, it just took off. We thought we were going to have 30 in the first 3 years, but it soon outpaced that.
Terrific. And so we'll get across to where we are today with 65,000 hotels and multiple chains and airlines woven in there too. Jason, I'm going to come to you next. If you want to tee up a question, I'm going to ask a question. I'll come to you to see if you have some questions from the chat. So Tom, you launched in 2002, just after 9/11, a difficult period for the hospitality business. You were coming up to speed, and then 2008 through to 2010 came, which I know was a very difficult period for the travel business. And now, of course, in the past year, we've been dealing with the pandemic. And I'm curious, this notion of dealing with challenge, which I think is something else that every entrepreneur really has to come to terms with. Most people can get through the easy times, sort of sailing in good weather is not a measure of a good sailor, and also being an entrepreneur in prosperous times is not necessarily a measure of a good entrepreneur. So just like, any thoughts on sort of, I'm sure you've had some periods of challenge. How have you dealt with that? What has sustained you?
I think that one of the most impactful things in my life was my wife, Melissa. When we met in the early 90s, after I moved to this little town of Wallace, Idaho, she was from a nearby town. She was a single mom, and she had 3 kids. And here was this woman from Mississippi who had 3 kids and a sign shop and an advertising agency. And she was making it all go around by herself. It's very difficult to be a small business owner, but to be a female small business owner and a single mom. I learned all about strength. I thought I knew strength, but I learned strength and commitment, and so many capabilities that stuck with me. So when you talk about that arc of all of those years, 9/11, 08, this pandemic time for our company, I think that I would definitely want to say that anybody that says that an entrepreneur's journey is all a magnificent ride isn't saying that there are moments when 1,000 moments when you want to give up. There are absolute years when you have a slump and you don't even believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself anymore, it's so hard to face your employees and your customers. There are some ups and downs, but I'm very fortunate that I get a lot of credit, but I've only been as strong as I have because that Melissa and I have been side by side 24/7, jointly building and making all these decisions together. I think she's probably picked me up a lot more times than I've picked her up.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Jason, let me come to you and see what you want to share from the chat.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Mooney and Tom. We have a few questions in the chat that we would like to ask from our audience today. The first question comes from Jeffrey Dubison. He says, great story. How long until you reached break even?
I'll let you know. No, just kidding. We've been what you will call in business school a real bootstrappy company. I would say we probably achieved break even pretty quickly, Jeffrey, because we started so low cost. We had the 2 of us. We had 2 old Mac computers and our house, and we had 12 clients. And one of the best things that we ever did was our earliest vendors. We went to them and we negotiated 120-day credit terms. But our terms with our clients were 30 days. So if we were able to operate at a very, very low cost, which we were, and that gave us the ability to cash flow and build from there. So we were actually able to break even pretty easily. And I mentioned to John that one of the greatest influences that I ever had was when we were first starting off. Melissa and I were always looking around going, why are some of these companies getting tens of $millions from all these VCs down in California? They're just throwing money at PowerPoint presentations. How do we get some of that? Well, we were an unproven entity, so nobody would bet on us. But we read an article one day with the two founders of Google, and they said that one of the biggest blessings that ever happened to them was that in their first several years, they never got any venture capital because it forced them to bootstrap it so hard and to own every process and find cheaper ways. It's a long answer, but I think if you can bootstrap it and use a lot of flexible online technology, break even can come a lot faster.
Great, thanks, Tom. We have a second question from Kenny. He says, hi, Tom, what was your biggest aha moment that led you to start successfully scaling your company, and how long did it take?
I think one of the biggest aha moments was an article that I read in the 90s of Henry Silverman, who was the founder of Ascendant, which later became Wyndham. And he was a real estate guy that bought a travel agency and a distribution company called Wiscom. And then it was said that he was the model for Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. He bought this distribution platform, and then all of a sudden he started buying all these old sleepy franchises that were like Ramada Inn, Days Inn, Howard Johnson's. These were all owner-operated franchises, small 200, 250 hotel franchises. He started buying all of these. He consolidated them all under one wing. And he said, you'll never believe how much scale you can get out of one platform. I believe I can get infinite scale out of a platform. Later on, he bought Century 21, Avis, and he kept going. And so that was a light bulb. That was one of the light bulbs. I don't know if there was ever one, but that was certainly one, Kenny.
Thanks, Tom. I'm going to pick up on a couple of things there, Tom. You just mentioned platform again. So as some of my current and former students who I can see are on the session know, I have the great joy every trimester of being able to say there's never a more exciting time to take my course, which is about the intersection of strategy, process, and data and digital technologies, right? And the reason for that is we always have new technologies coming along. And so I want to pick up on this platform idea and something you said before, because I in our conversations, I picked up, and you did touch on it briefly earlier, the possibility that there's never been an easier time to be an entrepreneur because of the easy access to affordable platform. So even what you do in Magnuson Hotels is you provide even the smallest hotel with access to world-class functionality, right, in terms of distribution, advertising, etc. What are your thoughts as we kind of think forward here, because the technologies are continuing to evolve? What do you and Melissa and your team have your eye on right now about where this industry is heading, and sort of, emerging platforms that may prompt new opportunities or new challenges.
Melissa and I have been building a technology infrastructure over the last 3 years, and we've been building with the idea for to build something that'll last for a long time and be very, very large. We're continually investing in our distribution and our technology infrastructure, things like automated pricing capabilities, so that we are committed to helping the smallest business owner, the mid-sized business owner, to any business owner struggling against giant corporations that are struggling more on their own. We're committed to giving them the greatest strength that they can to survive. One of the things that we worry about a lot, especially right now, now that we're in 2021, which is why we've invested so much in our technology, and we're so committed to helping independent hotel owners, is that we all look and see who were the fastest growing companies during the pandemic. The online grocers, Amazon. Congratulations. But it comes at the expense of the local grocery store. It comes at the expense of 1,000 Main Streets America. And what's going to happen, I really believe, is if small business owners aren't given access to capital and technology and resources, the big are going to get bigger, and it's going to get tougher and tougher and tougher for small businesses. So we're immersed in digital platforms every day, and we're gonna leverage everything we've got. Your recent book that just came out a few months ago, where you talk about the business value and the power of cloud computing. It's never been stronger. I know we're both preaching to the choir here, but there's never been a stronger time when small businesses can get big if they handle the right thing. Because what happens is, as we know in technology, is when a technology is introduced, it's so expensive no one can afford it. But pretty soon, the costs go down to where it's practically free.
Terrific. Well, we need to transition, Tom, to the next segment, which is the breakout networking opportunities. I'm going to close with one last question to you, and again, it's advice. So you recall that closing advice of Chuck Williams, and I'm going to ask you to put you in that role today and pretend that you're the closing professor and offering the words of advice here to both current students and alumni, many of whom I know are aspiring entrepreneurs. What, other than the Swiss Army knife concept, what other advice would you offer as we close out our conversation?
If I was Chuck Williams talking to a room full of young students now, all I would humbly offer is my own opinion, and that is, God bless you. You come out with the heart of a lion, but when you do, make sure that you have a strong faith with you. Because what's going to happen to you is you're going to come out with the heart of a lion, and then things are going to happen, are going to wear you down. And there are going to be times where you get worn down and then you compromise. And that the big dreams and the man on fire, the woman on fire is going to get compromised. And then you're going to be another 15 years later and you're going to become acclimated. And then you may just become risk averse because you've encountered so many difficult things. But if you can keep your faith and keep your original. If you could keep your faith, try to keep your original vision. You're gonna have to moderate your business plan, but don't ever lose heart. The world will beat you down, but if you've got it within you and you surround yourself with positive influences, positive role models, positive reading, think about possibilities while the world keeps throwing limitations at you. I would say that would be the best way. And then one of the things that my dad used to say to me was, you've just got to outlast. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have some tough days, you're going to have some great days, but no matter what, do everything you can, give every day everything you got, and make it to the next day, and just keep going. Just keep going. And that's what I would say.
Terrific. Great words of advice, Tom. Thank you so much. And thank you for the conversations today and in the lead up to the event.
All right. And without further ado, I do want to pass it over to Dean Bernice Ledbetter. She is our Dean of Student and Alumni Affairs. Dean Ledbetter.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And thank you everyone for being here. It's been a thrill to join alumni from around the world in different locations. This has just been amazing. I want to give a special shout out to a very special person who is joining us today. Hugo Frahauf is one of our beloved community members, and I want to acknowledge something very special about him. He is the recipient of the Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering for his work on creating global positioning systems. You know that as GPS. Yes, that's right. Our own Hugo Frahauf was instrumental in developing GPS, something we all live with in a ubiquitous way, as if it were air or water, that guides us from point A to point B to C to D and onward and upward always. And so we're so proud and so grateful, and thank you for joining us today, Hugo. And I want to also give a special thanks also to the alumni engagement team. Thank you, everyone, Robin, Jason, Bridget, Nicole, Deborah, and I hope I haven't left anyone out. Thank you so much for your continued effort on providing wonderful opportunities to bring our alums together to create networking and learning. I also want to thank our Dean, Dean Van Rensburg, for his opening remarks, and also for the special gift of spending some time with our beloved Professor Emeritus, Dr. David Ralph. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and special thanks also to John Mooney for your wonderful thought leadership and the wonderful conversation that you facilitated with our speaker today. I hope that you will look at Graziadio and our alumni network, your alumni network, as your go-to source for lifelong learning. We know that when you graduate, learning does not stop. In fact, it shouldn't. And so we hope that you will stay close to us, you'll stay connected, and that you will make sure that you continue to drive yourself to be a continual lifelong learner. I think that's one of our survival skills as leaders and as humans, to continually learn. And so we hope that you will take full advantage of all the opportunities that present themselves to you. We have, I want to also acknowledge that we have nearly 500 alumni in Europe and close to 200 people registered for this event today. And so those of you who are in Europe who are joining us, thanks to Zoom, we are as close as we have ever been. And so we're so glad that you could be with us, and we hope that you'll stay connected with us too. We also invite you to stay connected to us through social media and get involved in our online communities. You may be already part of PEP Connect. If you're not, please join us on PEP Connect. It's a great way to stay connected and to share resources and to help one another grow and develop, and to just feel a connection to your fellow Graziadio alumni and even in the bigger community of Pepperdine alumni. If you haven't already, you still can click on the link and fill out the opt-in form for networking so you can stay connected with the folks that are on this session. And we'll be emailing that out to you after today's event. Thank you, everyone, so much for being with us today. It's always good to be together. And it's part of what makes Pepperdine special is our connection to one another, our sense of shared values, and particularly the value of one another and what we have to offer to each other. So don't get too far away. If you feel like you need something, I want you to know, as Dean of Students and Alumni Affairs, that Pepperdine is always your home. You can always come back to Pepperdine. We are here to support you through your lifelong journey of your professional life and even beyond. So do stay connected, do stay close, and please pay attention to your email. We'll be sending you notices of upcoming events. So do stay tuned. There's lots more coming, and we look forward to the next opportunity that we have to be together. Our session is adjourned today. Please go well, stay healthy, and we look forward to getting back together soon. Take good care, everyone. Bye for now.